Haugen.
Well, thank you very much and good afternoon. Welcome into today's Community Comment. Again, I am your host, Kevin Haugen. It's my pleasure to welcome into our Daily Dodge TV studio this afternoon. Joining us on Community Comment today is the Beaver Dam Fire Department. It's my pleasure to welcome into the conversation Beaver Dam Fire Department firefighter and paramedic Emily. Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us here on Community Comment today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really stoked.
Awesome, fantastic. And if you do have any questions for our guest here on Community Comment today, you can call in at 887-9595, or you can text 885-4446 if you want to text questions, and that's the line to do so. I want to thank our producer, Wally, today for the appropriate lead-in song, Rain of Fire, from Johnny Cash for the Beaver Dam Fire Department here. It's a fitting song here to discuss a lot of important topics here on our program this afternoon, most important of which is really a month-long event that's happening here throughout the month of October. That I had learned a little bit ago from the chief of the Waupun Fire Department, who came in and sort of previewed National Fire Prevention Safety Week/month. I know some departments do it on a weekly basis. I know you had mentioned that it's really a month-long effort that you are engaging in with these local kids and youth in our community to teach them all about fire safety. But it also coincides with a very large fire that happened in Chicago so many years ago that kind of ties into this important component here that we're talking today, and that also ties into this year's theme of smoke alarms, which we'll highlight here also in just a little bit as well. Again, we're joined with the Beaver Dam Fire Department. We have with us firefighter paramedic Emily here on Community Comment. Before we dive into National Fire Prevention Safety Month and all the important things with that, Emily, I want to ask first just how you wound up in the fire service industry. Is that something that you always had an interest in, or it was a calling? What got you into this position that you are in today?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I get that question pretty often, actually, in this career field. But I think you hit it on the head saying that it is a calling. You know, when you dabble in this career in the beginning, it's interesting. But back when I was going through high school, I decided that I wanted to devote my life to helping people, whatever means necessary. And so going through and figuring out what career that would be, it was actually between police officer and fireman, and we have quite the banter with our police department, and that's pretty much everywhere. Police and firemen, we get along, but it's that brother and sisterhood that has the banter.
Rivalry between the two departments.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's great. But yeah, so I ended up in the fire service and have loved it ever since. So I actually volunteered with a department way back when I was about 16, and then I was officially then voted on to that volunteer fire department when I turned 18, and then I've just continued my education, and then grown up in my careers. I've grown up as a person, and so finally had enough eligibility and enough certifications and qualifications and education to then work at a full-time department, which is a little bit different than our paid on-call, which we'll get into later, and then wound up at the Beaver Dam Fire Department, and I've been blessed ever since. Right.
Now, you had mentioned it was down between the fire department and police department. What swayed the fire department over the police department, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so it's actually a singular conversation with a fireman on my old department, and it was the fact of he's like, being a police officer, you do a lot more. But people aren't always as happy to see you. And so being a fireman, which I didn't even know entailed the EMS side of things, working on the ambulance and stuff like that. But working on the ambulance and being a fireman, you really resonate with people a lot more, and you're looked at a little bit better. And so I thought that would be a little bit healthier of a career for my mental state.
Yeah,
so
it's certainly still a career that involves quite the difficult moments day to day. You still are dealing with people who go through some tough times. Houses are on fire, lose a lot of personal valuables. So it's not to sell short the difficult work that does come with being a firefighter, because you do tend to work with and have to see people at difficult times. But there are other components to that job, not like that you don't have this opportunity working at the police department, but you do have opportunities like here in the month of October to do community outreach and see members of the community and talk to them about fire safety. And because another thing we always highlighted with other fire departments here on Community Comments, a big component of a job of a firefighter who works at a fire department, it's about educating the public. It's about preventing what you guys are called to do, essentially. It's
Yes.
preventing a fire from happening. And that's, again, what National Fire Prevention Month is. One of the main focuses of this month is educating the youth and educating people in the community about that. Emily, if you could just sort of highlight what your role is throughout this month, and really what you have been doing for the last couple of weeks and what you will be doing here for the rest of the month.
Yeah, for sure. So like you touched on, October is Fire Prevention Month, and as you touched on prior, some departments do it in a week, and then some departments do it for the whole month. The Beaver Dam is blessed to have a bunch of kids in the school district, so we spend it over the full month. And so we go into every school, and we chat with the kids on fire safety. We make sure that that at home they have good smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, what number to call if they do have an emergency. And then, when I grew up, it was, okay, how to dial that on the landline phone. But then they're like, well, I don't know mom and dad's passcode to their phone. How can I call? And so it's changing, but it's changing in a good way, obviously. But yeah, so we head into every single school, every elementary school, I should say, and we do the talks, and we bring the fire truck, and we get to show them all of that, and we have someone, a member of the fire department, they get in their gear and show them what that looks like, because it is a little intimidating. I don't really want to say scary. It's just different because some kids aren't used to that. And just like Halloween, if anyone shows up with a mask, it's kind of funky. So we walk them through that process, and we make it a little bit fun and engaging for them. And only a couple kids cry. It sounds bad, but
Not intentional by the fire department.
Right. But I always make someone else get in the gear. I'm like, oh, you made them cry. But yeah, so we make sure that the kids are educated, and we give them materials to bring home with them. And some of the materials are like the coloring books, but they all obviously have that same fire safety message. One thing that we also hit on is everyone having a good home escape plan and a meeting spot. So we want to make sure that they're able to get out of their home. Once they get out, they stay out, and then they're able to knock on a neighbor's door or have someone else call 911 for them. And then they don't, once they get out, then they stay out. They're not going back in. And so we really reiterate that by showing them our gear, letting them touch us when we're in our gear, and show that, how protective our stuff is, and that's why we're trained to do this. And we have the special fireman gear that allow us to go back in to grab mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and uncle, brother, sister, whatever it may be. They'll throw, oh, what about my pet fish? And I'm like, yeah, we'll save them too, I promise.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's really fun.
Great. Now, you had mentioned an interesting note there that things have changed over the last 10, 20 years. Back in the day, most people just had a landline. You could pick up, dial 911, and get to where you need to get a hold of the groups that you need to get a hold of in order to get somebody out there. Nowadays, a lot of homes don't have landlines. It's a parent's cell phone, or if kids aren't old enough yet, they don't have a cell phone, and they are password protected, and you can't get into those devices. Obviously this is still relatively, newer for your career, getting into these conversations and the like, but what have you noticed in terms of changing how this message is portrayed to the youth? Obviously back in the day, it's different from what it was back when I was a kid or when you were a kid hearing this message. What are some of the changes that you've seen over the years that is an important emphasis that you in your role are teaching kids nowadays?
That's a great question. I would say it's definitely evolving with the times that are evolving with us. So making sure that, okay, do you guys have iPhones or even Samsung or Android, whatever it may be? And then, okay, well, do you know how to dial 911 if the phone is locked? And then it's walking them through that. Or who lives in an apartment? Okay, you have a ton of neighbors that live right next to you. You can go knock on those doors if you want. Just giving them those different avenues. And then also, letting them know that you live in a well-populated area. So, I mean, if there is a big fire, I mean, someone's bound to call it in, and I mean, but really reiterating getting to that meeting spot then.
Yeah, and another maybe real quick side question here. You've done this now for about a week and a half, for at least this year's edition of Fire Prevention Safety Month. Have there been any interesting questions or things that have come up from the students that you have met with that is a standout so far this month?
Oh my, that's a great question. Kids are
sometimes
unique.
kids can have they can say the old show. They can say some of the darndest things sometimes.
Yes. One of the, so I had one of the guys on shift, one of my fireman friends. That's what we call them to the kids. He was in gear, and they asked when he was all geared up, with his face piece and breathing on the tank air, like, oh, like, is it hot in there? And so we explained, and then my partner, he took off his bunker coat, and he's like, you want to feel the sweat? He's like, yeah, this is how hot it actually is. And so that was great. And then we explained that even though it does keep the heat out, the bad heat, it also keeps our body heat in. Yeah. So on like the really hot days, when we go out and train, we make sure that we're well hydrated pretty much at all times through our 24-hour shift, because anything can happen. So, but yeah, kids are great.
That's awesome. Again, we're with Emily with the Beaver Dam Fire Department. She is a firefighter paramedic. She's going around to all different elementary schools here throughout the district, teaching kids about Fire Safety Prevention Month and all the important things that come along with that. And we mentioned the theme this year is smoke alarms. And, it's always one of those things that sometimes, as a homeowner, kids are not necessarily, you're not going to put them responsibility on their shoulders to, all right, you got to make sure that your smoke alarm's working. But it's a good thing that you can remind their parents that, hey, make sure the batteries are being checked. Usually you recommend doing those around daylight savings time, which, fall daylight savings time is approaching. That's right around the corner. But what's some of the important key notes and things that we want to highlight here when it comes to smoke alarms?
Smoke alarms and smoke detectors are great. They're a necessity for every household. So as I was talking about, we send them home with a home escape plan. Mm-hmm. And on that home escape plan, there's like a little checklist for their home that they can go around and look. And so hopefully that sparks the conversation to whoever they live with to make sure that they have the adequate fire prevention needs within their own home. And it's great because the teachers will kind of interject and connect like, hey, when we have our fire drill, XYZ happens just like it should at home. And so the teachers are great for that. So thank you to them. But really the smoke detectors, like you said, we want to make sure that those batteries are good and change them every time daylight savings comes around. It depends on when you purchased your smoke detector or your carbon monoxide detector, but usually they're good for about 10 years. But the new ones, you actually don't even need to have a new 9-volt battery anymore. They just come with a 10-year battery life, and they're good to go. So it's awesome. But smoke detectors, you want to make sure that you have one, obviously, on every level of your home, and then also make sure that you are checking them frequently, and then have one, if your home is a little bit larger, make sure you have one in the sleeping area, and then make sure your kids know what that noise is. So this year we've brought a smoke detector with us, and then we play it when we test it in front of the kids. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so loud. It's like, well, it's loud now, but we want to make sure that it wakes you up when you're sleeping if we need to, or that if it needs to. Mm-hmm. So we just want to make sure that they have those means necessary. And actually, the Beaver Dam Fire Department is offering up, and we've done this all the time, but it's just coming up now because of smoke detectors. But if you or a loved one do not have any smoke detectors in your home, just give the Beaver Dam Fire Department a call, and we will help you get hooked up with those. If your family member is elderly, or if you are elderly yourself, we will come in and install those for you, because we love our job and we love doing what we do, but we want to make sure that the people in our community are safe and they stay safe. Yeah. So it does.
And again, it's the people can call the fire department phone number, which I do not have that memorized. I know sometimes
yes.
I put people on the spot.
I got it. Yep.
All right. What is that number that people can reach out to if they're interested in either getting that free installation or picking up a smoke alarm or smoke detector at the fire department?
Yep. So you can call the fire department anytime, any day. It's going to be 920-887-4609. And during the day, you'll talk to really any one of us, but mostly our administrative assistant. Her name is Lana. She's awesome. And if it's after hours, I mean, when she goes home, then you'll get one of the duty crew. So call anytime, and we'll get that set up for you.
Fantastic. Again, so if anyone out there does not have a smoke alarm or smoke detector, or has one but doesn't have it hooked up properly, there are ways that the Beaver Dam Fire Department is offering to make sure that your home is well protected and safe. So if something unfortunate does happen, that those warning signs and those triggers can come in place and prevent something more tragic from happening if a fire does take place. But again, we're with the Beaver Dam Fire Department here on today's Community Comment. We're with firefighter paramedic Emily. Want to pivot the conversation just a little bit here as our show begins to wind down in its first segment. Want to highlight a couple of different things. We'll talk about some upcoming events that people want to mark on their calendar here later this month. But first, want to highlight openings or positions available through paid on-call opportunities. I know the Beaver Dam Fire Department is a split agency essentially. There's full-time firefighters, which Emily, that's what your position is.
Correct.
And then as well, it's filled out with paid on-call staff, which essentially volunteers who respond to calls. And I think there's always a certain percentage or requirement they need to respond to throughout the course of the year. But what's the details and information that we want to pass along to our listeners and viewers when it comes to paid on-call opportunities with the Beaver Dam Fire Department?
Yeah, great point. So the Beaver Dam Fire Department, like you said, is a combination department. So we have our full-time members. We've got about 24 of those. And then we also have our paid on-call staff. So the paid on-call staff, you are able to even have like your day job or your night shift, whatever job you may have. But then you're also able to be a firefighter at the fire department. So it's like I said, paid on call, so like a part-time gig, but we have trainings a couple of times a month. And you can come in and like learn all the skills. It's great if you want to like find out what it is. If you ever want to do a ride along, just really anyone interested in this career, you're also able to come in, do a ride along, that same number, 920-887-4609. Just give that a call and we can set up a ride along for you as well. We're very open to accepting anyone and everyone. I mean, make sure that you can figure out if you like this career, and if you do, awesome. I can share my passion with you, and everybody else at the fire department can as well. And it's a great little like transition into it then. So,
I think that's awesome that it gives people an opportunity who they are maybe are interested but don't know if they want to make that leap into making this a career and pursuing or pursuing a paid on-call opportunity, and offering up those ride-along opportunities is a great chance for people just to get a small taste of what that's like, and if it's something that they want to spend their time doing. I know, too, I believe, if my notes are correct here, that also to be considered for paid on-call, need to be 18 years of age, must have a high school diploma or GED, and a valid driver's license as well. And I apologize if you mentioned this and I just completely missed it. Is there certain requirements that you need to live within a certain time to get into the fire department to respond and get yourself ready to go to calls, or could somebody from Fall River, sign up and do this? But are there restrictions on where people live if they're interested in pursuing this opportunity?
Yes. So you should live in the city or the township of Beaver Dam. Okay. Sometimes there'll be exceptions if you can get to the station within a certain amount of minutes. But if you do live in a surrounding jurisdiction like Fox Lake or Trenton, or not Trenton, Horicon or any of those, they also have volunteer departments. So you're able to go to their monthly meetings and then get on their fire department. So just the difference in education. So if you wanted to do the paid on-call position, it would be a 1-semester course that you would just have to pass and be CPR certified. And then if you would like to go full-time, it would be about 4 years of education then.
Fantastic. Again, we're with Emily of the Beaver Dam Fire Department. She's a firefighter paramedic. With the few minutes that we have left here on our program, in our first segment here of Community Comment today, I'll note in just a moment who our second guest is on our second segment of Community Comment today. But I want to highlight a couple of fun events that are taking place here later this month in October at the Beaver Dam Fire Department. Take it away, Emily.
Yes, so Saturday, October 26th, we have our annual trick-or-treat event. So we clear out the fire engines and the fire trucks from our apparatus bay, and we fill the inside with local businesses that have come in, and they make like a little table, and it's a great trick-or-treating event, and best of all, it's a safe event for all your kiddos. So that'll be on October 26th from 1 to 3. And then if you're hungry when you're there, not only can you eat the candy, but we've got some brats for you. The cadet group is having their fundraiser. They're going to have brats, and I'm pretty sure caramel apples. Those were my favorite last year, so.
Hopefully they're there again this year.
Yes.
Awesome. And again, so that brat fry and trunk and treat events are both happening on the same day, October 26th. The brat fry from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The trunk and treat from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. as well, ending at the same time. And I just want to quickly note with that cadet program, we talk about avenues for people to see if firefighting, the service industry is something that they're interested in doing through the paid-on-call opportunities there. Cadet program is another great way for the youth and younger community members of our community to get involved and see really on a first-hand basis what it's like working and being at a fire department.
Yes, for sure. If you are not 18, or I mean, if you think that you're over 18 and your kids would be interested, you're more than welcome to come in and see what the cadets are all about. Our cadet leader, Anthony Kinsey, he's incredible. He's done a ton for that program, and it's just getting their hands dirty and getting an in-depth look at what the career really entails. So they've got 2 trainings a month, and they'll walk you through the fire and the ambulance, or like the EMS side of things. And it's a great organization to figure out, again, even for the younger people, if it really is something for them that they enjoy.
Great, fantastic. Again, the Brat Fry fundraiser for the Beaver Dam Fire Department Cadet Program is October 26th from 11 to 3 p.m. Fantastic turnout last year. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic turnout again this year. That goes from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. At the fire department in Beaver Dam here. Before I let you go, Emily, what's the phone number one more time for the department if somebody, again, has more questions about paid-on-call opportunities, or they want to pick up a smoke alarm or detector, or look at getting those installation opportunities for their home?
Yes, and you can also schedule a tour if you want to give your kids a tour of the station too, a private tour.
Okay.
So that phone number is 920-887-4609.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank our guest here on our first segment of Community Comment. Joining us here on our program is Beaver Dam Fire Department firefighter paramedic Emily. Thank you, Emily, again so much for coming in on our program today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
We do have another segment of Community Comment coming up. In our second segment, we'll be chatting with one of the candidates for Beaver Dam Mayor, Jack Yuds. He'll be joining us here in just a few moments here on Community Comment. We have to take a quick break. More Community Comment is coming up next.